Welcome back to Monday Special. Of course, tonight we're talking about the older people, senior citizens, all the elderly. And we are asking, are we treating them right and who should take care of them? Keep on texting 2242 and using the hashtag Monday Special KE on Twitter. Gideon Koros from Kapsoid says, your topic is most relevant. The responsibility is squarely the children's, except in difficult circumstances. Government can only supplement. And then we have Kinga from Nyahururu. Old age is a big challenge in Kenya today. Senior citizens should unite to fight boredom and misery. Right now I'm joined by Dedan Atiende, who's the coordinator, Langata Daycare Center for the elderly. He also has somebody, or to be specific, grandmother that you're living with. Tell us about your situation.
Sure. I have a grandmother I'm taking care of. She's old, 8 years. Well, she's been undergoing some ailments, and the challenges that I'm facing when I'm handling and caring for her. Like you find these elderly people, like Mrs. Gidiji, you can see is 80 years of age.
74.
Around 74.
Yeah.
And you can see the grandmother I'm taking care of is 80 years.
Yeah.
So that's age set. So you can see Mrs. Gidiji is strong. And when I bring my grandmother on stage, you will see how aged the person is from the physical look. So I'm wondering, it makes sense of logics. When I hear the policy talking about the equitable and equal distribution of resources.
Yeah.
And I would like to say that to handle an old person needs passion and strength. Especially it is challenging to a young person like me.
Are you working currently?
Currently, I don't
Apart
I don't have permanent work.
You work as the coordinator at the Langata?
Correct.
Okay.
But on voluntary basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So you're not getting any income?
I'm not getting any income.
And you're supporting yourself how?
I'm supporting myself from the contracts I'm getting, especially when I work to organizations that are within the Langata Kibera district, like the Langata Kibera Gender-Based Anti-Violence, which is multi-sectoral and multi-level.
Okay.
And we have urban slums community development project, which I also get some contracts.
Right. Do you have any siblings, parents?
Currently.
And how is it that you live with your grandmother?
Currently, no. I don't have siblings.
You don't have siblings?
Yes.
And your parents?
My parents, I'm an orphan of both biological parents.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
So you are living with your grandmother used to live with you since when?
Immediately after the death of my my father.
So that was in the upcountry, or here?
My father died in the in Aban.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you moved your grandmother from upcountry to here?
Yeah.
Just to take care of her?
Yeah.
So how is it, how hard or difficult has that been for you?
It's really hard. It's really very challenging. And at times it is very stressing because the demands of the old person is there are very many. And their health status change seasonally with the climatical changes. You find today she's crying of the joint pains. Tomorrow she's talking about the back pain. The other day she will talk about the eyes are not seeing properly, teeth problems. They cannot, even the type of food they eat, you need to be very careful because you find that they don't have the strong teeth, and due to the low immunity system, exposes them a lot to so many environmental challenges. Also depending on where the old person is living, because not all persons are not living within the same geographical coverage.
And there's no medical insurance for her?
There's no medical insurance.
You didn't get her? Or
no.
And now it's very difficult, of course, because
it's very difficult.
Of her age.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dedan. And of course, we wish you the best. Some questions, of course, you had for the panelists, including one that I'll ask Janet, and this goes to the Labour Ministry representative, Mwakio Riga, on the cash transfers. Many people are asking, how do the elderly or old people, Janet, access the cash transfers? And what do they mean? They say they use the poverty index. How do they measure poverty? And is it for poor people or for the older people? And I think Dedan also has something to say about that.
Yeah, I have something to say about this. I would like to know from Mr. Riga, especially majorly on the cash transfer line. I would like to know, was this cash transfer meant for the poor or the old age people? And when you talk about the poor, what are the indicators, the logistics and modalities they are using to measure the level of poverty of the old person? And when from the original definition of poverty, when we talk about the old person, there is age bracket that is set up by the government within the constitution. They are talking about 65 and above. Not all those are 65 and above are poor, and not all those are 65 and above are rich. So depending on where you live, somebody living in Livingstone, somebody living in Krokocho, and somebody living in Madari and Kibera slum, because not all Kibera are slum areas, like Olympic, 42 are not. So what are the indicators they put in place to measure the level of poverty in relation to the old age?
And have you, before we just take it to them, have you accessed, or your grandmother accessed cash transfers? Have you tried?
My grandmother have not. I would have tried.
But what happened?
There are things like they are talking about, what I would also request, they are talking about the ID. During the time my grandmother was born, some were not even getting access to the IDs. Some do not even know their age when they were born. They're just estimating.
Right.
So that's also a challenge. The ID in relation to the age factor and the government policy is challenging. So I would like to ask the government also to be very, very flexible on that.
Of course, you have Mokio Riga with Janet in the other studio. Janet.
That I was actually going to ask about that. What do you mean by poor of the poor? How do you measure that?
Thank you, Janet. Actually, poverty is a relative word depending on the society that you come from.
So in this particular case, for the 2,000,
in this particular case, where we give 2,000 shillings, we have got community-based targeting. It is not a program that is giving money out anyhowly. We have a very well-defined system of targeting where the community themselves, community members who know everybody in the locality, are the ones who actually give us the names of those people who are really deserving. As they give us those names, now we go with our targeting tool where we take all the particulars of those people, and once we have taken the particulars of those people, again we bring them to a committee at the constituency level, a committee known as Constituency Social Assistance Committee, which is very inclusive. It has got the MP as the patron, and it has got representatives from faith-based organizations and all other people who are related to issues of social welfare.
So the list is brought in front of this committee, is that correct?
It's brought in front of this committee.
Then what happens?
And after that, it is taken back again to the community to do validation. Once it has been taken to the community for validation, we expect that the committee will now approve that list. That list is now taken to our headquarters here in Nairobi. We have got a management information system where all those particulars of all those people is entered into the management information system. That system itself has a way of ranking the people who are the poorest. And by doing that, because here we are using proxy means, and at the other side we are using the community-based targeting, I assure you, you will get the most poorest person.
Which means not everyone in that list is going to qualify. You have a list that's brought forward to the committee.
Yes.
That list is then vetted, validated, and then some people will still miss out.
Some people will still miss out because the money that we are given is the one now which determines how many people should get this amount of money.
So what happens in the case of Dedan, for example? He's saying that he is unable to fully take care of his grandmother. And I think a lot of people watching the show might be feeling the same way. They might be saying, I'm unable to take care of my ailing grandfather, grandmother, mother or father, and I don't have any access to this money, to the 2,000 shillings, which will make a huge difference. What then do they do? What advice do you have for them? What solutions do you have for them?
The only thing I would advise them is that when awareness creation is taking place and the period for targeting has been announced, that is the time that anybody who is willing to be assisted should come forward. And if you are really deserving, I'm sure the government will take care of you.
How often do you carry out those assessments?
Every financial year, when we get an extra allocation, we bring on board extra beneficiaries. Right now, we are covering about 59,000 households. And by the end of this financial year, we'll move up to 164,000 households. The targeting is taking place right now as we are talking.
So it's happening right now?
Right now, it's happening all over, in all the constituencies.
How can people get information on that? Is there a particular office in their constituency or organization that they can reach out to find out?
Once they reach the office of the social development officer, they will get all that information. We have passed the information even to the provincial administration, the chiefs, and the MPs also. They are aware of all those things.
I have a question that he also asked about IDs. He made a good, valid point that a lot of people who are older may not have IDs. They don't have any proof of how old they are. So what happens in a situation like that? What if someone comes forward, you don't know their age, they don't have the relevant documents? What then happens?
Unfortunately, Janet, the accountability part of this program requires that you must have an ID. Otherwise, how would I know that you are a Kenyan? When were you born? And already there's a very strict criteria that you must be 65 years and above and be very poor.
So they need to then, if they don't have an ID, they need to then go out and register, but use an estimate, because it's true, a lot of people who are now 80s or 90s, I'll ask Mrs. Githinji the same, kind of estimate their age. They don't have any documentation that says that they're a certain age. So what happens?
Somehow our social workers in the field try, when they come across a case like that one, they refer them to the National Bureau of Registration and they are assisted to get those ID cards.
Mrs. Githinji, do you think this is a fair process? We have some people who feel that they really are deserving of the 2,000 shillings because of their level of poverty. They don't have the relevant documentation. They don't know when these various assessments are happening, and they feel like they're locked out and left in the dark. Do you think it's a fair process?
No, in fact, I am happy to learn that, because I have never known anything. I'm just hearing now from Mr. Mwakio.
You didn't know about the process very well.
No, I didn't know the process very well, because I only know that one has to produce the ID and to be qualified. So I am learning. I am also
learning.
Do
you have an ID?
Yes.
You do.
And mine is proper, because my father, my parents were educated, so they had the proper birthday to all of us.
So you're one of the lucky. Erastus, yes, I know you want to say something.
Yeah, because you see, actually what we are trying to do is, what part of our advocacy is actually to push Mwakio and the Ministry of Labour, actually government, to make this process a public process.
How so?
And that is in terms of providing the necessary information.
Right.
And making sure that, especially because older people, is a cash transfer for older people, that older people understand really how this process is. And actually they can do so because Mr. Mwakio has agents all over the country. They have the officers, and they are working with the provincial administration.
Okay.
The point is to make the information very accurate.
I think so, and accessible.
And then I see the program is targeting. So people need to be told that so far this is not a program for all the older people. That is the confusion that is there.
They think it's for all older people, but it's for older poor people.
Older poor people.
Again, according to that poverty index.
But also we are pushing, we are really pushing for that, because part of our work is to see that one day the government of Kenya will have a universal pension for older people.
We need to wind up. Sorry, Erastus, to interrupt you. I do want to ask Mrs. Githinji. She was telling us about her friends, your 3 friends that died in 1 year.
Yes.
Yeah, just tell us.
Yes, they had retired. We retired as almost the same time, and they got sick. They developed some diseases which, when I came to learn that they've died, I just thought that if there was a group of older people, if there was somewhere they could go, because I came to realize that they developed that disease because of loneliness, their lifestyle, the denial of their age, and you know, changing from the employment to
To retirement.
To retirement.
Was it depression, you think?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Especially 2 of them, they died from depression. The other one was sick, and she refused to associate with people. She just locked herself in the house.
All right.
And she died.
I do want to ask you one more question, but we're winding up. Erastus, we need to move very quickly and talk about old persons' homes. If you have people who are unable to take care of their ailing or older parents or grandparents, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the state of older people's homes in Kenya. Do you think that's the best way to address it, to take them to an old person's home, A? And B, is it true that there is a problem with a lot of these homes in Kenya, that the people continue to be neglected?
I think the problem is lack of standards and regulations. And I think I appreciate that the policy that we are working with the ministry to put in place has also put that the government will regulate, but also will support, because older people in the homes do not belong to those homes. They belong to a family and they belong to a government. That is one thing. And I would say that as Helpage Kenya, we are against the policy of taking older people to institutions. But there are certain circumstances. I want to give an example of my dad. My father is 102 years.
102?
Yes. And so we realized that as soon as my mother passed away about 5 years ago, and we realized that my father has a problem, and eventually he developed dementia, memory loss and all this. At one time he got lost, and we were very much concerned. And our last resort was to take our dad to Huruma. I really appreciate what the sisters are doing there, the Catholic sisters at Huruma in Nanyuki, and also some other homes. So what we need is, really, it is not the older person's institutions should be the last resort. Yeah.
So sorry. So you're really monitoring the standards there, so that it's another option where people can take their older parents, because right now some of them may be hesitant because of the standards. So you are regulating the standards in these homes.
We are regulating the standards.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Mrs. Githinji, I'd asked you a question before the break. Maybe let me rephrase it. Are there things that you valued as a younger person that still matter to you today?
Yes. One is respect to other people. That one is what I valued so much when I was growing up. I was taught to respect old people, and I still value that now, because what I see now is lack of respect to older people in the society, and I would stress that that older people need to be respected, because aging is a process. And unless you die early, you will you will end up getting old.
I can't let you go without asking you this. Any advice for young women in society today in Kenya?
For young women?
Young women. What would you like to say to young women in Kenyan society today?
Young women means young mothers, or
young women like
young,
okay,
like
I consider myself young. So young women like me. What advice do you have when you look at the scenario, when you look at how they carry themselves? Is there something that you feel?
Yes. I would advise the young women that women are very they should be respected people. Because even when God was planning to bring the Savior in the world, she looked down and found the good woman, a young girl, to carry the baby Jesus to come and save us. So the woman has a respect. I mean, I would advise the women to respect themselves. I don't know what I can add, because if I say that, I don't mean that they don't respect themselves, but the woman's place should remain woman's place in the society, in the home, in the environment, everywhere.
Just respect themselves.
Just respect themselves.
Okay, you are the founder of the Diamond Aged People Association. Thank you for the work you're doing. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Thank you all so much. Of course, Mr. Riga, we're going to be following up on everything that you've said in terms of the policies. It's so important because there is obviously a bit of an issue regarding older persons in Kenya. So we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with closing remarks with Hussein Mohammed in just a moment. Stay with us.